The boundaries are broader now. But we were talking a Bourdain when you know the first record with Brooks and Dunn. You know, I think they just continue to expand. They sold 30 million albums together, won every award possible, and modern history is the country's greatest duo. But Ronnie Dunn just revealed the real reason. Brooks and Dunn split in 2009. It wasn't a burnout like they claimed. At 72, fighting health issues and facing his own mortality, he decided to tell the truth. What he said about those final years made Nashville insiders gasp. Even Kix Brooks wasn't expecting. The confession changes everything, fans thought. They knew about country music's most successful partnership. They say music comes from the soul. But in Ronnie Dunn's case, it came from oil fields, honky-tonks, and church pews. Born on June 1, 1953, in the tiny town off Coleman, Texas, Ronnie was caught between two worlds. His father was a road truck driver who played honky guitar, while his mother filled their home with gospel and strict Baptist values. One minute, Ronnie was watching his dad play in smoky bars. The next, he was in a church choir on Sunday morning. That strange balance between sacred and the rowdy would shape everything he became. It wasn't just noise in the background. It was the beginning of a lifelong obsession with music. But stability wasn't part of Zeppelin. Ronnie didn't just switch schools a few times. He moved so often that by the time he graduated, he'd been in 13 different schools across Texas and Oklahoma. 13. That meant 13 new sets, offerings, teachers, rules, and local radio stations. One town might be into country, another all about gospel or blues. This constant uprooting didn't break him. It expanded him. He picked up different sounds and styles. Like souvenirs, each school added something new to his ears. And along the way, it gave him something most artists never get. Range. Real earned range. While other kids were dreaming about electric guitars, Ronnie picked up something most country stars never touch. The saxophone. He joined his school's band. Learning how melodies moved and how rhythms hit, it wasn't glamorous, but it was training. Meanwhile, at home, his father would come back from a long haul or a day in the oil fields, dead tired, but still ready to show Ronnie a few chords. It wasn't a formal music education. It was better. It was real-world grit, mixed it with heart. Ronnie saw that music wasn't just a hobby, it was a lifeline. His dad worked 2 brutal jobs and still made time to play. That lesson stuck. In the early 70s, Ronnie thought maybe psychology was his future. He enrolled at Abilene Christian University, but his heart had other plans. He was sneaking out to play in bars, soaking up the nightlife, singing to people who were halfway drunk and fully emotional. But university had rules, strict ones. Playing in bars didn't just clash with school's values, it got him kicked out. That was the moment he could have cleaned up, gone back to school, and played it safe. But he didn't. Doubled down on music even when it meant losing everything else. Still, that didn't mean he turned his back on faith. While he was still in school, Ronnie served as a youth minister and music leader at a small church in Aoka. Wasn't just playing music, he was leading worship, guiding people, helping them feel something deeper. That experience didn't just influence his voice, it shaped his soul. Gospel wasn't just a genre to him, it was home. You can still hear it in how he sings. The hope, the fire. By the early 80s, Ronnie had relocated to Tulsa, Oklahoma. If Texas gave him his roots, Tulsa gave him fire. The city was boozing clubs like Tulsa City Limits were packed, and the music scene was a wild mix of country, blues, and southern rock. Dunn was in the thick of it, performing night after night, sometimes for crowds of over 2,000 people. It wasn't glamorous. It was a grind, but it was also the perfect testing ground. If a song didn't make people dance, it was dead. Simple as that. Those dance floors taught Ronnie what no classroom ever could. How to move people, how to make them feel. And then came the wild twist. In 1988, a drummer named Jamie Oldecker, who had played with Bob Seger and Eric Clapton, spotted a Marlboro talent search for him at a gas station. Without even asking, he submitted Ronnie's name. Ronnie didn't take it seriously at first, but he sent in a demo anyway. That demo included rough versions of Boot Scoot and Boogie and Neon Moon. Amid the finals, he won. That win came with a trip to Nashville and a recording session with producer Scott Ricks. In that session, it changed everything. Ricks introduced Ronnie to Arista's Tim Dubois, who then paired him with another struggling artist, Kix Brooks. That meeting was lightning in a bottle. Within 2 years, Brooks and Dunn were everywhere. But before the awards, fairness, and the #1 hits, there were years of rejection. Back in the early 80s, Ronnie had signed with Churchill MCA and released 2 singles. It's Written All Over Your Face, and she put the sad in all his songs. Both peaked at number 59. Not terrible, but not enough. Those songs came and went, and Ronnie kept hustling. Playing shows, writing songs, staying in the game, even when no one seemed to care. In 1990, 2 men in their 40s were about to give upon their solo careers. Ronnie Dunn, a Texas-born singer with a big voice and a gospel heart, and Kix Brooks, a Louisiana songwriter known for his high energy, had both spent years chasing success. They'd written songs, fourthers, played in small clubs, and faced one rejection after another. They didn't know each other. They weren't looking for a partner, but fate had other plans. That same year, a record executive named Tim Dubois saw something. Neither of them did. He thought, maybe, just maybe, they'd be stronger together than alone. So, he arranged a meeting over lunch. Neither of them wanted to be there. Kix even said, "We don't want to do this. We don't know each other. I mean, this is just silly." But something clicked. That awkward lunch turned into a songwriting session, then another, and by the end of the week, they had written 2 songs that would define the start of their legacy. On August 13, 1991, Brooks and Dunn released Brand New Man. The album hit like a thunderstorm. 4 straight songs went to #1 on the country charts. Brand New Man, Boot Scoot and Boogie, My Next Broken Heart, and Neon Moon. Boot Scoot and Boogie sparked a line dancing craze across America, while Neon Moon gave Heartbreak a new anthem. The album sold over 7 million copies in the US alone. That kind of debut was unheard of in country music, but it was only the beginning. Their success wasn't just about hit songs. It was about contrast. Ronnie had a smooth, emotional voice that could make any ballad feel like a prayer. Kix had grit, charm, and raw power. Their voices shouldn't have worked together, but somehow they did. Ronnie could carry a slow song, and Kix could light up a stage. Together, they covered nearly 3 octaves, blending emotion and energy in a way no one else could. Even their writing was fast and electric. Within days of meeting, they had already written Brand New Man and My Next Broken Heart. Ronnie wrote Neon Moon and Boot Scoot and Boogie by himself. It was like they had waited their whole lives, forthright creative match, and finally found it. As their fame grew, so did their awards. Brooks and Dunn sold over 30 million records worldwide. That made them the best-selling country duo in history and the highest-selling duo in any genre. They won 30 Academy of Country Music Awards and 18 Country Music Association Awards. From 1992 to 2006, they were named CMA Vocal Duo of the Year 14 times in a row, missing only 1 year. Nobody's ever come close. Year after year, new artists showed up, tried their luck, took their shot, but none could take down Brooks and Dunn. They held on through the changing tides of country music, standing like a mountain in a storm. It wasn't luck, it was raw talent, hard work, and Dunn's voice that filled every arena to the back row. Their numbers were just as unreal. Together, they released albums like Brand New Man and The Longle, each going multi-platinum. That's millions of copies flying off shelves. And the hits? 24 #1 songs. Not a few, not 10, 24. My Maria lit up the charts in 1996. Ain't Nothing About You became the most played song of 2001. Red Dirt Road didn't just play, it echoed through an entire generation. One song after another, they dominated radio. Every release felt like a guarantee hit. Ronnie Dunn wasn't just a singer, he was a machine delivering anthem after anthem. When it came to touring, they didn't just show up, they took over. Crowds packed in by the tens of thousands. Night after night, more than 20,000 people filled the seats, screaming, singing, waiting for that first chord. In the 2000s, their concerts became something else entirely. Fireworks, giant stages, wild energy. It felt like a rock show wrapped in a country soul. Fans didn't just attend, they experienced it. Sold-out arenas became their second home, and every tour felt bigger than the last. Brooks and Dunn didn't follow the rules, they rewrote them. Then came something even rarer, the ACM Triple Crown Award. Only a few ever get it. You have to win Top New Artist, Top Vocal Duo, and Entertainer of the Year over your career. That's not just success, that's dominance. And Brooks and Dunn did it. From their first big break to becoming the face of country music, they checked every box. It was a rare kind of career, one that hit hard from the start and just kept climbing. But Ronnie wasn't just about sticking to one lane. In 2006, he teamed up with Vince Gill and Sheryl Crow for Building Bridges. It wasn't just a collaboration, it was magic. Their voices melted together in a way that made people stop and listen. That song won awards, topped charts, and proved something. Big Ronnie Dunn could hold his own next to anyone. Country, pop, didn't matter. He didn't need to change who he was. He just brought his sound and made it work, with anyone brave enough to stand beside him. Still, behind the stage lights and roaring crowds, the pressure was building. From 1991 to 2009, Brooks and Dunn released 11 studio albums, 50 singles, and stayed on the road almost non-stop. By the late 2000s, it started catching up. They were winning award after award, over 75 in total, and had sold more than 30 million records. But the price was high. Ronnie and Kix were exhausted. They even began recording in different studios with different producers. That wasn't bitterness. It was burnout. Too much, too fast, for too long. They always looked united on stage. But offstage, the weight of expectation stirred to wear them down. What began as a powerful partnership started to feel more like a business deal. Compromises were harder. Time apart was necessary. By the late 90s, cracks had started to show. There were moments when they almost split years before they finally did, and yet, they kept going. Not for themselves, but for the fans. They pushed through the pressure because they knew what they had built mattered to millions. In August 2009, the country music world was stunned. Brooks and Dunn, after more than 20 years of hits on packed tours, announced they were calling it quits. No fights, no scandals, just a quiet, cryptic message. It's time to call it a day. Fans were confused. Industry insiders were shocked. After all, this duo had sold over 30 million albums and won more CMA awards than any other duo in history. They were giants. On September 3, 2010, their final show at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville felt like the end of an era. But for Ronnie Dunn, it wasn't just the end of a door, it was the beginning of a personal storm he never saw coming. Without the Brooks and Dunn name, Dunn felt lost. For years, he had moved with the rhythm of a machine. Record, tour, repeat. Now, the machine stopped. I didn't know who I was without the brand, he said later. It felt like stepping off a moving train into silence. For the first time in decades, there were no lights, no crowds, no safety net. He released solo music, but nothing felt the same. He began to question everything. His voice, his writing, his worth. The confidence that once felt solid started to crumble. And then Kamithi, rejection. Country radio, which once couldn't get enough of him, barely paid. The charts were now filled with younger names, new faces, new sounds. Dunn was no longer the voice of the moment. Radio wasn't embracing him, one insider recalled. And it hurt badly. Not because he needed fame, but because it felt like he didn't matter anymore. He called it the darkest period of his career. For a man who had helped shape the sound of modern country, being pushed to the side cut deep. The silence got louder. For a man used to living in spotlight, being alone was unfamiliar and painful. He admitted Thoth felt like it might all be over. I thought maybe that was it. Maybe I already had my moment, he said. That thought terrified him. He stopped writing for radio and started writing just for himself. And in that stillness, something began to shift. The music started sounding like him again. Raw, real, and full of soul. After spending decades as one half of the legendary Brooks and Dunn, Ronnie Dunn made a bold move in 2011. He stepped into the spotlight alone for the first time in his career. His solo debut album, simply titled Ronnie Dunn, came out on June 7, 2011. And it didn't just make a noise, it exploded. The album shot straight to #1 on the Billboard Top Country Albums chart and landed at #5 on the Billboard 200. In its first week, it sold more than 45,000 copies. The lead single, Bleed Red, became a surprise hit, climbing to number 10 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart. Even more surprising, Dunn didn't write the song himself. That was rare. But its message, unity, forgiveness, healing, hit a nerve. America was still struggling in the Wakuv, a deep recession. People needed something honest, and Dunn delivered it with a voice that hadn't lost an ounce of power. Instead of playing it safe, he pushed further. In 2014, he released Peace, Love, and Country Music, and headed it all on his own terms. The album was wild. It mixed country with rock, blues, even electronic dance music. One song, Country, This, had a dubstep drop. Nobody saw that coming. 2 years later, in 2016, he shocked everyone again by covering Ariana Grande's pop song Tattooed Heart. Most thought it was a joke until they heard it. The album also included collaborations with old friends like Reba McEntire and even Kix Brooks. Then in 2020, he released Redone, a covers album that paid tribute to his heroes. He sang everything from Tom Petty to George Strait. 3 albums, 3 bold swings, each one proof that Dunn wasn't afraid to shake up country music, even if it meant ruffling feathers. To pull it all off, he had to take a risk that most artists his age would never dare. In 2014, Hugh hooked away from the major label system and launched his own label, Little Will E Records. The name came from his dad's nickname, a small personal tribute wrapped in a big professional risk. But Dunn didn't just want freedom, he needed it. Under his own label, he finally had full creative control. No corporate filters, no executive approvals. He distributed his music digitally directly to fans, even skipping traditional stores. It was a radical move, especially in Nashville. But it worked.